Pahlavi texts, translated by E.W. West. Part 1, the Bundahis Bahman Yast, and Shayast, Shayast, Sacred Books of the East, Oxford University Press, 1860. And this introduction is called The Selections of Sparam. In some manuscripts of the Dadastan Dinik, the 92 questions and answers, which usually go by that name, are preceded and followed by Pahlavi texts, which are nearly equal in extent to the questions and answers and treat of a variety of subjects, somewhat in the manner of a rivayat. Of the text which follow the questions and answers, the following are the principal: incantations for fever and so on, indications afforded by natural marks on the body about the hemistakan, the ever stationary or neutral state of future existence, and the different grades in heaven. Copy of an epistle from Herbad Manuskihar, son of Yudanyim, which he addressed to the good people of Sirkan about the decisions pronounced by Herbad Sparam, son of Yudanyim. Copy of a letter from Herbad Manuskihar, son of Yudanyim, to his brother Herbad Sparam on the same subject, and replying to a letter of his written from Nivshapuhar. Copy of a notice by Herbad Manuskihar, son of Yudanyim, and high priest Rod of Pars and Kirman, of the necessity of 15-fold ablution on account of grievous sins, written and sealed in the 3rd month, AY 250, 881 of the Common Era. Memoranda and writings called Selections of Sparam, son of Yudanyim, the first part of treating of many of the same subjects as the Bundahis, together with legends regarding Zarathustra and his family, the second part about the formation of men out of body, life, and soul, and the third part about the details of the renovation of the universe. The last part of these selections is incomplete in all known manuscripts, and is followed by some fragments of a further series of questions and answers regarding the omniscient wisdom, the evil spirit, Tangdes, the enclosure formed by Yim, and so on. A translation of so much of the selections of Sparam as treats of the same subjects as the Bundahis has been added as an appendix to the translation of that work in this volume, because the language used in these selections seems to have an important bearing upon the questions of the age of the Bundahis. The time when the selections themselves were written is fixed with considerable precision by the date 881 of the Common Era, when their author's brother Manuskihar issued his public notice, as mentioned above. But Sparam uses in many places precisely the same words as those employed in the Bundahis, interspersed with much matter written in a more declamatory style. It is therefore evident that he had the Bundahis before him to quote from, and that work must consequently have been written either by one of his contemporaries or by an older writer. So far, the selections merely confirm the information already obtained more directly from T.D. See page 38. But the involved style of their language seems to prove more than this. In fact, in none of the text of the Dadastan Dinik and its accompaniments is there much of the simplicity of style and directness of purpose, which are the chief characteristics of most of the language of the Bundahis. So far there as style can be considered a mark of age rather than a mere personal peculiarity of a contemporary writer. The contrast between the straightforward language of the Bundahis and the labored sentences of Manuskihar and Sparam, sons of Yudanyim, tends to prove that the bulk of the Bundahis was already an old work in their days, and was probably saved from oblivion through their writings or influence. That this original Bundahis, or Zandakas, was an abridged translation of the Avesta of the Damdadnask appears pretty evident from Sparam's remarks in chapters 9.1 chapter 9, verse 1 and 16 of his selections. The first part of these selections consist of sayings about the meeting of the beneficent and evil spirits, and the first portion of these sayings, divided into 11 chapters in the translation, is chiefly a paraphrase of chapters 1 through 17 of the Bundahis, inventing chapters 2, 5, and 16. It describes the original state of the two spirits, their meeting and covenant, with a paraphrase of the Ahadnavar formula, the protection of the first creatures, including time, the incursion of the evil spirit, and his temporary success in deranging the creation, with the reason why he was unable to destroy the primitive man for 30 years, followed by the 7 contests he carried on with the sky, water, earth, plants, animals, man, and fire, respectively, detailing how each of these creations was modified in consequence of the incursion of the evil spirit. In the account of the first of these contests, the Pahlavi translation of one stanza and the Gathas is quoted verbatim, showing that the same Pahlavi version of the Yasna was used in the 9th century as now exists. The remainder of these sayings, having no particular connection with the Bundahis, has not been translated. With regard to the Pahlavi text of the selections, the present translator has been compelled to rely upon a single manuscript of the Dadastan et Danik brought by Westergaard from Kirman in 1843, now number 35 of the collection of Avesta and Pahlavi manuscripts in the University Library at Copenhagen. It may therefore be called K35. This manuscript is incomplete, having lost nearly 1/3 of its original bulk, but still contains 181 folios of large octavo size, written 15 to 17 lines to the page. The first 71 folios of the work have been lost, and about 35 folios are also missing from the end. But the whole of the 92 questions and the answers, together with 1/3 of the text which usually precede them, and 3/5 of those which usually follow them, are still remaining. This manuscript has lost its date, but a copy of it exists in Bombay, written when it was complete, which ends with the colophon dated AY 941, 1572 of the Common Era, as detailed in page 33. This may either be the actual date of that copy, or it may have been merely copied from K35, which could not be much older. The latter supposition appears the more probable, as this colophon seems to be left incomplete by the loss of the last folio in the Bombay copy, and may therefore have been followed by another colophon giving a later date. The copy of K35 was no doubt originally complete, but has lost many of its folios in the course of time. Most of the missing text has been restored from another manuscript, but there are still 12 or more folios missing from the latter part of the work. It contains, however, all that portion of the selections which is translated in this volume, but has, of course, no authority independent of K35. The other manuscript in Bombay, from which some of the missing text was recovered, is in the library of Dastur Jamasji Chiharji. It is a modern copy written at different periods from 40 to 60 years ago, and is incomplete, as it contains only 1/4 of the text which usually follow the 92 questions and answers, and it includes no portion of the selections of Sparam. Another manuscript of the Dadastan Dinik and its accompaniments, written also at Kirman, but 2 generations earlier than K35, say about 1530 of the Common Era, has already been mentioned, see page 33. It has said still to contain 227 folios, although its first 70 folios are missing. It must therefore begin very near the same place as K35, but extends much further, as it supplies about half the text still missing from the Bombay copy of K35. Though it has lost about 14 folios at the end, this manuscript must either be the original from which K35 was copied, or an independent authority of equal value, but it has not been available for setting the text of the selections of the present translation. And I would hope through my media that I do the same sort of thing, that either through my influence or my copying out of stuff, that certain traditions are put forward and are preserved. or at least reach an audience that they wouldn't otherwise have reached.